Okay, so I wanted to take a quick second and go through this paper that came out. It was published in the Orthopedic Journal of Sports Medicine. It came out in December of 2021, so it's very recent. And what it was titled is Injury Patterns, Risk Factors, and Return to Sport in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It was a cross-sectional study. It was a cross-sectional survey, really, of 1,140 jiu-jitsu athletes. And there's nothing in this paper that was really groundbreaking. I actually didn't think it was even a very good paper. I think there's a lot of problems with surveys. If you saw a post that I did, depending on when you're watching this, if you dig through, there's a post that I put up about what do you consider an injury? And that post came almost directly out of this because it really made me think, what is an injury? And it made me think about my own personal experiences, because this paper defined an injury as one thing. Another paper that I read fairly recently looking at injuries defined it completely different. And from my personal experience, I had a neck injury a while back. I talked about this a little bit on that post, but I'll talk a little bit about it here. I had an injury a while back to my neck. This was several years ago. I ended up going and getting it rehabbed with a professional. It was stopping me I couldn't turn my head to the left to drive my car, but I was still showing up and drilling. So the point is that if you look at that injury, to me, an injury that would meet one definition that I used, but it wouldn't meet the other definition from another paper that I used. So it kind of shows injuries are very personal. What we consider injuries are very personal. And I don't know if what I consider what I had an injury, other people may not. It definitely impacted my life outside of the jiu-jitsu. It definitely impacted my life on the mats because I wasn't rolling. I was only able to drill. So to me, that was an injury, and it was pretty significant, and it required me to get some medical help. But how this paper quantified an injury and how they defined it, it would not have met the criteria for that. So I think with scientific inquiry, it's important to have these very clear-cut definitions. At the same time, do I think it's perfect? Far from it. So I don't think that there was anything in this paper that was really groundbreaking. I thought there was a lot of bad in this paper. I think there was some good that came out of it. And I thought I'd go through some of that stuff. So if you want to read more, if you don't want to watch this, if you want to read more, I'm doing more long form stuff on a Substack, the BJJ Physio Substack. And I went through pretty much all of my opinions of this article, but I'm going to share this screen with you and go through exactly what at least part of what this study found. So this study, one of the big things that came out of this study was that they were looking at risk factors. So they found 3 risk factors for injury. Sorry about my handwriting. In BJJ. Okay, three primary risk factors. The first one was age. Again, nothing groundbreaking there. We know that as we get older, our ability to repair slows down, our ability to recover changes. So age, that's nothing groundbreaking. That's something that we all know. So I'm not going to go too much into that. Second was competition. So competition, competitors, people who compete, they didn't really even quantify a number. They just said, do you compete regionally? Do you compete nationally? And do you compete internationally? And all those came together if you're a competitor, then you're more likely to get injured, versus when they compared it to non-competitors and people that don't compete at all. So again, nothing groundbreaking there, because the level of the roles are harder, the camps are harder. We do things that maybe are a little bit more risky. We will maybe go further into a submission. That way we get the experience of being deep into a submission. Those are all things. So again, nothing groundbreaking. And the last one was belt/experience. And this one I thought was interesting because white belts had the lowest rate, and brown and black belts had the highest rate. And I didn't find that as, I guess I shouldn't say I found that necessarily interesting, because it makes sense as we grow in the sport, as we advance, we're putting more time in. Maybe we're previously competitors and we've got, 5, 6, 7 years of competition under our belts. Maybe we're still competing regularly. So as we grow in the sport, more wear and tear, more time on the mats, more time for injuries to accumulate. Maybe we don't get them addressed properly. So there's a lot of factors, but it all makes sense that age, competition, and belt levels and experience on the mats, those are all going to be key factors. So again, nothing groundbreaking here in this. This study did find that it showed that the shoulders and the knees were the most commonly injured in the so shoulders, knees, shoulders and knees were the two were common, and that's been shown time and time again in papers. So again, nothing groundbreaking there. They looked at the most type of mechanisms, or what they looked at what techniques are causing the most injuries. And they found that Kimura's, heel hooks, Kimuras and heel hooks were those did the most. There was a third one here that I'm kind of drawing a blank on, that I'm kind of looking at. Arm bars as well, that's the third. And that all makes sense. So what can we kind of draw out that? What I want to give everybody a take home if you made it through this video. This, as we get older, as we grow in the sport, as we compete more, it means that we have to take care of our bodies better. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the 1-2-3 method. This should give this structure that I use. I don't give this out very often, but I do use this a lot. I use this for basically every, whether you're an amateur, whether you're recreational, I use this training structure religiously. And I find that you can go a long, long way with this training structure. And it will work wonders for your jiu-jitsu. It will also, it will allow you the ability to recover. This is a good way to train recovery. So the first one is, I'm going to call it the 1-2-3 training structure. So one difficult day. And that I put that as 7 out of 10 rate of perceived exertion, RPE. Okay. So sometimes I don't even, whenever I am whenever I'm programming for somebody, if depending on what their training history looks like, that one day may not even, that might be difficult for them, but for somebody else, it may not. So it's good to have some insight into what your training history is, where you're at, and to have some introspection to be like, I think, maybe I don't need it to be exactly a 7 out of 10. Maybe sometimes it's a 6 out of 10, especially if you're just starting this training structure, or you're just starting to lift, or you're just starting to do something off the mats. 2, I call this is like a moderate day. And I'm going to put this as like a 4 through a 6 RPE. Okay. So sometimes, I might have, it might be a 2-2-3, but for the most part, it's 1-2-3. Okay. So that's a moderate 4 out of 6 RPE. And then the 3 is light. These are recovery days. 3 recovery days throughout the week. That should be bare minimum, in my opinion. I mean, that you have to have those recovery days if you're training jiu-jitsu, if you're doing off the mat stuff. Okay. So, and then this is basically like a 1 to a 3 RPE. So basically, if you look at these 2 right here, you have 3 days of off the mat. Maybe you're doing some mobility work. So I'll give you guys some ideas on, maybe I'll give you guys some ideas. So, maybe you have to have some insight in what your physiology is. So maybe you're, I'm going to put Gumby here. I'm going to put the Tin Man here. Okay. Each one. So maybe Gumby, maybe you're going to do 1 heavy day of strength training. And then you're going to do 2 moderate days, full body work. And then 3, you're going to do maybe some really light mobility and maybe 20 minutes on the bike or rower, or maybe doing some road work. Okay. So this, I mean, again, thinking about this is a 7 out of 10. This is a 4 to 6 out of 10. And this is a 1 to 3 out of 10. Okay. So you should walk away from these right here. These should make you feel better. These should make you feel like you're getting stronger. So if you're the 10 man, maybe this might be, maybe you need to focus more on mobility. So this might be some very difficult, maybe you will focus more on, you will do some strength. So you'll do some strength training. And why not? Let's go heavy. But in the beginning of your session, maybe you'll focus a little bit of time. You'll take away some of your lifts, and maybe you'll spend increased time increasing your range of motion. Maybe, and then, so this is 1 day. Day 2, you're going to spend 2 days. You're going to spend 2 days doing mobility. You're going to increase range of motion. You're going to increase strength at end range. And you're going to increase control over new range of motion. And then 3, your 3 days, your 3 recovery days. Maybe you want to do a little bit of cardio. So you're going to do 30 minutes on the bike, and you're going to do some light mobility. Okay, so this is, again, using that 1, 2, 3 structure. Using that 1, 2, 3 structure will give you plenty of work off the mats, should not be taxing you in jiu-jitsu to where you are like, man, I can't train tomorrow. Ultimately, again, I think of jujitsu as and off the mat training. I think of that as the cake and the icing. The cake is jujitsu. It's like all of the layers. It's nice, thick, fluffy layers of cake. It's the best part. And then there's the icing that just it complements the cake. If your layers of cake are this thick and your layers of icing are this thick, you've got too much icing and it's taking away from the cake. So we really want to balance that. We want to make the cake better. We want to complement the cake, which is jujitsu. And we don't want to take away from it. So everything that we're doing off the mat needs to be complementing jujitsu. And I find that this 1, 2, 3 training structure will get most people where they need to be. So again, to kind of recap everything that we've talked about, big risk factors for jiu-jitsu are age, competition, belt, and experience levels. Shoulders and knees are the big areas that come to mind when you're looking at injuries. Kimuras, heel hooks, and arm bars are typically the most, they contribute most to these injuries. And then when I look at adding off the mat training for if we wanted to take better care of our bodies, I will generally start somebody on a 1, 2, 3 training method. 1 day that's fairly heavy, 2 days that are difficult and very targeted and specific and goal driven. And then I'll have 3 recovery days. So that's it for this. If you liked some of this stuff, drop a comment below and ask a question, whatever it is. And I'm going to try and post more of these. Again, you can check out my Substack. You can email me. You can shoot me a DM, all at the BJJ Physio. So thank you very much. And I'll look forward to talking to you soon.